Okay, here we are then. This is the video in which I get to do a bit about that opening part of the battle, so the first stage of the battle of the Trebia. And just to recap, it's midwinter of 218 BC. You've got Longus, the Roman general and consul, in camp. You've got Hannibal in camp. They both want to fight. Hannibal wants to because he needs to keep that credibility and the momentum that he's trying to build with the Celtic tribes that he's got an alliance with. Longus really needs a fight or an engagement of some sort, because his time as a consul is coming towards its end. He doesn't want to give up the spot for someone else to come along and steal all that glory. One morning in late December, the solstice is sometimes named, Hannibal gets his Numidian cavalry up first thing, and we're thinking this is around 8 o'clock in the morning because that's around daybreak, and he sends them over and he asks them basically to keep on insulting and rile and bait the Romans into leaving their camp, and this works. And it works brilliantly, because what Hannibal's trying to do is cause all sorts of problems for the Romans even before they've engaged with them. Now, he does this because he's using something around him. In fact, Hannibal was very good at this. This is why he was such a good general and strategist. He uses every type of condition, and he's got a couple here which I'll explain in a moment. So first of all, the Romans get woken up. Longus says, "This is it, guys. We're having it today. Let's get out there. Let's do them." So they move out of camp. This takes a while. Moving out of camp when you're a Roman soldier, you've got to form up. It could take well over an hour, easily over an hour. But you're doing this on an empty stomach because Longus is so impetuous to get this done. His men haven't had breakfast. And that might not sound too important, but it will have consequences. They're also doing this when it's very cold. So they're moving out of camp and they're forming up and they're on the marching column. And they're doing that. They're hungry and they're very, very cold. Now imagine you doing something very similar. I get you up first thing in the morning. Don't let you have anything to eat. And I go, right, you're going to be kitted out in fighting gear, which, you've got a lot of exposed body parts. You're not wearing a nice woolly coat or anything. Now we're going to go on a march. And at the end of it, I say, right, one more thing. I want you to wade through a river, an ice cold river, chest high. Because that's what happens. Because they've got to go and meet the Carthaginians. They go across the Trebia. And we're told that these were icy waters, chest high. It's going to cause you lots of problems. It's going to cause your hands and your feet to go numb. Think about that in a battle context. Could be bringing on hypothermia. It's going to put you in a bad situation. And the sources also say that this had an effect on the weaponry. So thrown weapons weren't so easy to use. Again, you can imagine all sorts of problems this might cause. And this has been something that Hannibal has orchestrated. He's already managed to degrade the Roman army to an extent before they've met him and formed up with him. And I'll get into the opening stage of the battle next. So here we are then. You can see the Romans in the red. They've moved across from their camp. They forded that river and now they're cold, but they've been able to engage with the Carthaginians. And you might be thinking to yourself, what were the numbers involved here? Well, it's a bit speculated, but there is an agreement that there was around 40,000 on each side. But the difference was in composition. So for example, the Carthaginians were far more cavalry heavy. They had around 10,000 cavalry, which was split across two wings. They also had those 38 elephants, by the way. Now, the Romans had fewer cavalry. They had 4,000 cavalry, and they were split across the two flanks. So straight away, there's a cavalry advantage. You know that there's going to be problems on the wings. But that shouldn't be too much of a problem because the Romans have got more infantry, and they're the heavier sort. They're not the imperial type soldiers with the lorica segmentata, but they're still pretty effective. And this is what is driving against the Carthaginian centre. And in fact, later on, they have success. They actually break through. A unit of 10,000 soldiers, Roman soldiers, breaks through the line. But when it looks back, it's not really encouraged to actually engage. It's not going to try and hit the Carthaginian rear or do anything. In fact, when it looks back, all it can see are Roman lines fragmenting and men running for their lives. So they just carry on marching on. And Hannibal's quite happy to see them go. Both sides must have looked at each other, or both units must have looked at each other and gone, yeah, see you later. Because Hannibal's got more to do. He's mopping up by that point. And that's because there had been a trap in all of this. There'd been something that was going on. And Hannibal had sprung that trap. And in the next video, I'll get into exactly what that trap was.